My name is Bill Fisher. This demo covers creating line art in Adobe Animate. When you open Adobe Animate, you'll be presented with this start screen. We're going to use full HD for pixel dimensions. However, if you're provided with other pixel dimensions, you can choose those three dots and you can enter them in right here. So let's choose full HD. I'm going to go up in the upper right corner and set this at 25% so that I can see the entire frame. The workspace looks just like most other Adobe applications. It does have a timeline. I'm in a workspace called Essentials. Workspaces are available down here, and there's a bunch of different versions. You can explore with that and find the one that may suit you. I use Essentials because I feel like it has everything that I need. We're going to be using the pencil tool. If you don't see it in the toolbar, choose these three dots, find it, drag it to the bottom of the toolbar, and then go ahead and drag it up to the top because that's going to be our main tool. I made a sketch for the character that I'm going to be drawing. To get that sketch into Adobe Animate, I will choose File, Import, Import to Stage. I'll find my sketch file and choose Open. There it is. Let's name this layer. Call it Sketch. These layers work just like Photoshop layers. I want to lighten the sketch so it's easier to draw over. So I'll click the layer and apply a color effect to that layer. I can open this up. Right here I have some choices. I'm going to choose brightness, 60%. I'm going to zoom in to 75%. I can hold the space bar down just like every other Adobe software and move that around. I'm going to preview now some of the drawing tools in Animate. Just watch this segment. I'm going to make a new layer and call it Beak. I'm going to lock this layer called Sketch so I don't accidentally draw on it. I'm going to draw with the pencil tool. Once I choose that, I can determine the stroke size. I'll set that at 2. I can choose pencil options and determine how much smoothing. I like around 70. Now I can go here and draw over this top of the beak, and you see it smooths it out for me. I can also choose the selection tool and just kind of deform it almost like it's clay. I also have access to points using the subselection tool, and just like Illustrator, I can manipulate handles and positions of points and really finesse that line. Now I can go back and choose my regular selection tool, select the line, and I have a few more options. Under width, I can choose variable stroke, and there's several types of those. At any time, I can go back and adjust the stroke width. I can also continue to manipulate the line, either with the selection or the subselection tool. If I set this back to a uniform line, I can choose no scaling. What that does is ensure that no matter how much the line is scaled up, it always stays, in this case, 14 points. This is important in animation if we want to create the illusion of hand-drawn animation where lines don't scale because we're using the same thickness pen as we're drawing frame by frame. Let's draw the bottom of the beak using the Fluid Brush tool. You can see it has a lot of settings and is pretty sophisticated. This line's a little wobbly, but it's going to be difficult to fix because as I get the subselection tool, you'll see I have a lot of different points. It's not like a line where I just have a few points that I can manipulate. Up here, where we have a line with a variable width, I can still change that stroke easily, and I can also manipulate that shape very easily. At any point in the illustration, I can go back and revisit these lines. This brush stroke is actually a shape, so I can't change the stroke width or really change the shape without manipulating each and every one of these points. For this reason, I never use the paintbrush tool for line art. Now here's where you should start following along with the demo again. Okay, let's start from scratch designing and illustrating this beak. I'm going to start by getting a line tool. I'm going to set the stroke to 1 for now. I'm just going to draw a line right here. I can grab my selection tool and just do that, and that looks pretty great. Perhaps I want this to come down a little bit farther. I've used the same technique to create this lower beak line as well. Now let's draw this more organic shape, but before we do that, I want to go to View, Snapping, Snap to Objects. This will help me to make sure that my lines are connecting. Okay, that smoothed that out for me very nicely. But you can see I have a gap here. That's going to cause issues later when I try to fill this shape with a paint bucket. So I can get my selection tool, grab the end of it, and you see it will snap it right there to the end of that beak, and then I can adjust that shape a little bit. Okay, I've drawn the entire beak using those two techniques, and now I want to draw the inside of the beak, but I want that to be an independent shape from this. So I'm going to select the lines I've already drawn. If I click once, it just selects one of the lines, but if I double click, it will select them all. I'll go to Modify, Group, and just like every other Adobe software, I can turn that into a group. Now, if I get the line tool, I can draw a new shape, kind of like this. And that shape I can also group. And now these are two independent groups that can be modified independently. Another way to create a group is to choose object drawing. And if I draw this, you will see it automatically turns it into a group. Once something's a group, we can still manipulate it using the selection or the subselection tool. I'm going to turn off the sketch layer so that I can see what's happening here a little bit better. And I'm going to fill these two shapes with a light gray color so that I can determine what is in front of the other. We can use the paint bucket tool and try to fill this beak, but you see nothing happens. That's because it's a group, and I need to click into the group by double clicking, and then the paint bucket will fill it. You can see right here the breadcrumbs that tells me that I'm in this group, which is in scene 1. To get back, I just click the word scene 1. Now I can fill the next one, which is the inside of the beak. I will double click that, fill it, and I can also click this back arrow to get back into the scene. I would like for this shape to be behind this shape. So just like every other Adobe software, once the shape is selected, I can choose Modify, Arrange, and send it to the back. Let's set the stroke widths. I can choose this line and hold the Shift key down and choose this line, and I could change their strokes at the same time. I can choose one individually and change its stroke. You see, I'm unable to select this line because it's in a different group. We'll have to leave this group, choose this group, double click to enter it, and now I have access to that line. And I can change that stroke. To get back into the scene and out of this group, I simply select this back line. I want this line to be two different stroke widths. Let's see how we can do that. I'll click it. I'm going to grab a line tool. I'm going to draw an intersecting line right about there. What that allows me to do now is select this line separately. When I'm finished, I can choose this line and delete it. To get these two lines to intersect the way I would like them to, I can click back in the scene, click into this other group, and kind of manipulate this one to get the intersection that I would like to have. Okay, let's draw the head. I'm going to zoom out, turn the sketch on, and you can see it's basically an oval shape. So I think I will start with an oval tool. But before I draw anything, I want to make a new layer. We'll call that the head. And I'll move that below the beak, so it works just like Photoshop or Illustrator. I'm going to draw this big oval. I don't think I want to fill in it, so I'll delete that. I can use the transform tool and get it more or less in the position that I would like it to be. I have snapping on, and that's why it's snapping around. I might turn that off momentarily. It's not a perfect oval, so I can grab my selection tool and kind of form it to match up with my sketch a little bit better. Let's work on these little shapes right here. These I think I will draw freehand, and I think that I will turn object drawing on because I want them to be in their own little group for now. So let's draw these like this. I want to fix them up a little bit, so I'm going to get my subselection tool so I can get to the points. And first thing I'm going to do is just eliminate some of these points that I really don't need. I could really manipulate that shape better without them. I'm going to move this out of the way because I want to do some erasing here to make it look like this head shape is spilling into these little zigzags. So I'll grab the eraser tool, erase some of that line out, take this, put it back, and you can see that kind of spills in there. Now I want to fill this head with that light gray that we're using. I'm going to get the paint bucket, and I'm clicking right now, but nothing is happening. That's because this is a group. So it's not really part of this head yet. So what I can do is choose Modify and break it apart. Now, this is all one shape, not two separate groups. I can try to paint bucket, but it's still not working. If that happens, what we can do is go down here to this option and choose Close Large Gaps. Now you see it fills just fine. Now I'm ready to draw the eyes, but I have a problem. This gray fill is covering the sketch, so I can't really see where they are. To resolve that issue, I can go down here to this head layer and I can click this orange rectangle, and that puts it in outline mode. So I can still see the shape of the head, but it's transparent. And now I could go ahead and draw the eyes on its own layer. I would probably put that up here above the beak. For the eye, I'm just going to draw a couple of lines. Now I have object drawing turned on. That's going to help me to keep these two lines separate. That's a pretty thick line, so I'll take that stroke down. Now when I draw my second line, again with object drawing on, I can make that one much larger. And I can bend it and kind of manipulate it to get the shape I want here at the top. So I'm going to leave these two as separate groups because I think I'm going to want to make them different colors in the future, and that will make that easier. Now to see the gray filled head again, we can just take that out of outline mode. All right, I made the other eye by copying this eye and pasting it over here and then manipulating it a little bit. If I would like this eye to be on its own layer, I'll make that new layer and select that eye. Holding the Shift key down, I can get both parts of it. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to click on the keyframe of the new layer, and I'm going to paste in place, and it puts it right back where I cut it from. These layers are going to be important in the future because we're going to be able to go in here similar to Photoshop and do color adjustments when we finalize the color and art later on. One last thing I'd like to cover is the History panel. It's under Window, History, and I like to drag it right in here because I use it quite a lot. And we can scrub back this little indicator, and it will take us back in time, show us previous versions, and it will also bring us back forward. And that wraps up the demo for today.